On today's Itty Report, we start off with my cat being pretty much, a cat. Anyways, so the idea of what we're going to try to get around to here is is a DOF 6, H6 specifically, rig worth it to have in DCS? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons and what it's required and the absolute spaghetti junction of cables required to do this kind of thing. And I know the OCD people out there are going to be like, please don't show me that anymore because it's terrible. But one of the things I always have to tell people, I said, this rig is, I would say, it's complete, but it always changes and it keeps changing. There's always something to do on it. And so I kind of have to always get to cables. And what also happens, which is kind of a bummer, is that there are so many actual USB connections on this that I have to use 3 different hubs. All the ports on the back of this computer are completely taken up, and pretty much all of the ones in the front are already taken up. So I don't have anything else other than this. And the challenge with it is something happens. Sometimes there's a patch, sometimes there's an upgrade, sometimes there's a driver, there's a Windows update, whatever you want to call it. What ends up happening is that I can no longer use this hub for a WinWing screen. And so I have to figure out another configuration, plug it into a different hub, maybe that hub into a different USB port on the back. It's ridiculous. It used to work flawlessly. I could have all 3 screens start up at Windows startup and they'd all just remember their placements. Now I have to do it a completely different way. It's a pain in the neck. If anybody has this rig and has similar situations, they know the gripes in this. I'm not complaining. It's just one of those things that you have to deal with. But, all right, so here's the thing. Because this is the only way I could get the configuration to work, my headphones, okay, are also plugged into this right over here, that hub. So here's the thing though, it's a powered hub, and since this is a motion rig, sometimes the motion of this thing is so violent, like it pulls out the power cable, the screens die, that dies, you have to restart DCS, blah, blah, blah. So that is one downside to having this. And by the way, if you're wondering what that rumbling is, even when it's not working, this is the actual seat that's actually making all this stupid noise in the background. So as you can see, we're not even in the rig and the aircraft is not even started. So I can kind of show you this. It's kind of Kiowa. See if I can get to look here. But yeah, you can see everything is completely cold and dark and this thing is still vibrating. So it's kind of an annoying kind of a setup in some cases like that. But the whole idea is what I want to do is kind of show you what it's good for, what it's not good for, the experience of having it after, 3 years. Would I buy it again? Those are the questions we're going to try to have answered. So I'm going to set up the camera and put it on a tripod so you can kind of get an idea of how much actual motion there is. And you guys can tell me if you think it's impressive or not. Be right back. All right, so this is basically the DOF Reality website. So you can see right here, this is a universal platform, which is pretty much what I have. You can see it's kind of got animations of all the different types of things that it does, and it's right here, free shipping, so $74, $100, 63, whatever. Now the funny thing is it actually looks like it's got a slightly different build with some different mechanical parts, but pretty much the motors and everything else is the same. But this is actually even more expensive. The flight rig, which is basically the same as that, it's about the same price, and then the racing rig is about the same price as the universal, which is a little bit strange. But I think I've got the universal because this is how I mount all my stuff up to the top. So if I actually went into a helicopter rig, I wouldn't have anything to mount all my WinWing stuff to. So this is more expensive and less capable. So I don't think that you would want this. And again, I don't know if they intend to have all that stuff mounted to it. I know they have some weight restrictions, but for the most part, it works perfectly fine for me, and all my mounted stuff is going to have to be mounted to that. So I think they're just expecting you to have a very, very minimal setup, but I don't get why this is more expensive with less. That being said, okay, let's jump over to this. This is the Sim Racing Studio. It's kind of sort of, they're integrated because they do the telemetry data together. But they do sell some of the motion platforms from DOF. But they're the more basic ones, the $2,800 ones, $4,000 ones, which I think this is the 3, this is the H3. The P3 and the H3, I think it's just a little bit more professional motor, a little stronger, something like that. It's a little bit more durable. That's what they explained it to me when I first got into it. They said that if you're not going to be using it for commercial use, you do not need the P series. The H series will be fine.
So that's what they said. But when you can go into the Hurricane kits, you can see that like I paid, like $300 for this. Barely use it. It's kind of annoying sometimes if you got it blowing right on your face. It'll kind of dry your eyes out if you're flying for a long enough time. Even if it's cold in the winter time, it could be blowing air on you and be like, dang, you're getting cold. So anyways, I got that because I kind of went nuts when I went through it. So I wanted to do that. The shake kit, this is a newer version. And I think it's even got 6 in here. So it's actually using 5.1. Mine has only got 4. So it's got a front pelt here, here, and here. So it only uses the basically the surround speakers for the front and back. It doesn't use center and it doesn't use the sub. But this one would actually get a chance to use all 6, which is kind of cool. So it's a better product. So since I bought it, it was about the same price as I remember it, but still $400 plus the other thing, which was I think $299. So you're talking about $700-800 worth of money when it's all said and done. And that's just an extra almost $1,000 just for those 2 features. Then we got to go into getting an actual seat, which I think I got this one a bit. This may be, this is pretty much the same thing. And so this is just a racing seat. It's pretty firm. It's not bad. I think it does come with those mounting brackets, so I don't think you need the mounting brackets. I think it does come with those, if I'm not mistaken. But you do need this as well. You need something like this if you need to adjust going forward or back. And I think I've got this this is the same thing that I have. So that's another $40. So you can spend, $350 on those things just to get the seat. And then, so this is the universal brackets. You don't need this if it comes with the seat. But yeah, you would want to make sure you get all that kind of stuff. And then you'd have to figure out how to actually mount it to your platform. Now, once you've done that, you can pretty much figure out the rest. Again, there is a how to build and how to figure out how to mod your rig. I'm going to put that link right here, right at the top. And then check that out if you want to see some tips and tricks on how to mount all these things to it, because there are no instructions. There are nothing that they can't, because they have no idea what you're going to be dealing with. And my rig, WinWing, wouldn't have even figured out, because I basically MacGyvered it and A-teamed it to death. So, it's just a question to find some parts at Home Depot and just solving problems. Okay, so that is what you're looking forward to if you're going to get into a rig. I would basically, if you were going to get into an A6 platform, the Universal's more, it gives you more parts and some different things. They even got some extra parts that you can buy, like down the path, like you can add-ons, like these type of things, like butt kicker mounts and all sorts of different things. But these just keep adding to the price. I think all in, when I got mine, and this was back in 2020, I think, or 2021, it was just before they were having the first, they didn't have the war. Which was one thing. And then the second thing is they also did not have the supply chain issues that they had in 2021. So I think I got in it right at the end of 2020, and rest is history. But like I said, this is where you can find all this kind of stuff. I'm going to put all the links of all the different parts that you would need for this kind of particular setup in the description. But that should pretty much do it.
All right. Here. Right. All right, so here we are. Apologize if the angle's a little bit odd, but this phone right here is actually recording me from kind of a side angle, and it's also on a clamp. So whatever motion that I'm going to go through right now is really going to show you how it kind of feels, kind of in relative to how much shaking there is for the camera. So you can even see like I'm doing this, so there's a little bit of a play in the like kind of the rig already. It's a little loose, but that's why when I just bump forward, you can kind of see the controllers are just kind of jostling around a little bit. But let's go ahead and get into the aircraft here. And whole idea is just to kind of give you an idea of just what it feels like to be in the Motion platform. And I'll just come on up and fly around. Just do some easy motions. So if you keep it pretty stable, you don't even notice anything. But one of the cool parts about being in a helicopter versus a fixed wing is that when you do yaw, you get a chance to get that actual kind of that yaw motion that you wouldn't, you could get, like, for example, if you're drifting in a car, you would feel that would make more of sense. But in a plane, you're not really going to make that motion that much. So with your rudder authority in a plane, fixed wing, you're not really getting anything out of that. So really the only thing that you really want out of fixed wing is pretty much pitch and roll, a little bit of vibrations from guns and those type of things. But other than that, the helicopter definitely gives you a lot more feedback when you're doing this. So you can see the rig is, you know, tilting. Whoop, I'm upside down. Now here's what's going to be fun. Okay. Now the trick is, I take my hands off stick. The rig is paused. This is where it sucks. Now this did not really stop in a really bad angle. Sometimes it'll stop in a really bad angle, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit. It's probably going to make it a slight adjustment, but I'm going to do fly again. It's going to load the screen, and as soon as it goes to the fly screen, watch how violent this thing just shakes. So you got to be very aware of it and very cautious, because as soon as it loads, watch that. See this shit? That's what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, I've had it's thrown out my neck and my back before. I mean, it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's stupid, stupid, stupid. Okay, so I don't even know what just happened there. I must have spawned on somebody else. But either way, let me try that one more time. Sometimes happens on this particular map. But I mean, that violent shake where I'm almost pretty much there, and it jumps and then it goes back to center. Look at that. Knocked out my track IR. It moved all these screens. I mean, it can be a lot of fun. It can also be a total pain in the ass, but I'll come up again. See if I can fly a little bit more reasonable this time. You can see I'm getting the pitch, getting the roll. This particular aircraft is pretty nimble. So as long as you can fly it and, you know, be reasonable with it, like, you know, the Black Hawk, you'll feel a little bit of it, but it's so much smoother than the Kiowa. Of course, you know, you can have AI fly this thing, but for the most part, what I'm experiencing in this is right now just flying, simple level flight. I feel a lot of the rumble from the seat, so I get a little bit of haptic feedback from that. But for the most part, you know, I feel a little bit of the yaw, a little bit of the pitch and roll. I'm going to see if I can kind of cock this into a weird position. Okay. Oh, there you go. You see me rolling, and now I'm pitched over here. Now again, this is where it sucks. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Go to quit. I hate this. Okay, see the initial pop back to start. That's lovely. But I'll hit fly again. And this doesn't matter if you're in multiplayer or not. This is just what this thing does. And anybody that has this system knows. I don't know why it's not fixed. I couldn't tell you. Yep, there it goes again. For absolutely no reason. It just kicks off and does this because I guess it's just getting the feedback from the telemetry in a loop or something like that. But anyways, that's essentially the Kiowa in action. Different. Let me do this. I'll just real quick. I'll load up the Chinook. Okay, just shifted and adjusted just a little bit. But. All right, so I'll go ahead and bring this sucker up. You can see there's a lot of yaw in this one. So you can see it's shifting quite a bit, and I'm getting a lot of bumping and a lot of feedback. But what that does is it twists my track IR to where I gotta spin it back around. But again, once you get in a straight and level flight, you don't really feel a lot. I'll get a little higher so we can kind of do some tricks up here. See, you got some roll to the left, roll to the right. And it's subtle, but I definitely feel, you know, like the gravity, you know, of like me kind of leaning over here. So it does give me something when I'm flying, especially when I'm doing this. Diving down. Now these things can be fine-tuned. You can actually, in real time, you can, you know, pause this, go into the software, and you know, you can get a lot of tweaks done with this. You can put smoothing effects, but so realistically, the smoothing effects, if you turn them up too high, the challenge is they don't kind of respond in the way that you need them to respond at the time to give you the feedback that you need. Like, even though this is rough, it kind of feels more realistic to me because I'm feeling something rather than it just giving me just a little tiny little something. I mean, where it almost does nothing. I mean, if you're gonna fly a motion rig that's gonna feel realistic, you want to feel like you're in it, shaking and all that kind of stuff. So But this one, I'm just going to go ahead and barrel roll. Just do something extreme. And I'm going down. Okay. That wasn't too bad. I got another video of colliding into another object just to show you. But that's kind of what it looks like in that particular setup. Now, unfortunately, I have to quit the desktop to do this. All right, so this is the actual software, and it'll tell you what games you're running right here. But the software will essentially, you know, I'll do this later. But there's the three main things that I've got on there is the IntelliBox, which does the wind, and then the Shake Box, which is basically the seat, and then the Motion Box, which is basically all the motion platforms for this fixed DFF. So when you're tweaking this, you go to Motion, and then you can see that I've got a lot of stuff that's maxed out because I want to feel it when I get it. But there's certain things that you don't want. You don't want a lot of sway. It can be really, really painful. You can actually tune how much, you know, gear you want to feel through the seat, how much yaw sway, all this kind of stuff, the smoothing effects. Those are the things I'll actually turn up. And then you can have boost and reaction speed. So it can get pretty violent, trust me. So when you actually load the airplane, let's get into here and see if there wasn't anything left. All right, see, there's another right there. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and, all right, now I hear it. Set my track IR. Go ahead and throw these throttles up. Give them the old salute. Gear up. That's a hook. Flaps up. Alright, so essentially now that we're in the F-18, which feels a lot smoother, I've got, as you can see, a lot of roll assigned. So you can see a max angle. You can see there's a substantial amount. Now if I pull, straight up vertical climb, level off. It's pretty smooth. You see now I'm facing basically straight down. Pull back. Some roll. So it's an interesting, correction because obviously when you get back in from the roll, it's going to go one side hard and then one side right. So you get, it kind of flips over. So it's not, it doesn't keep you in that same thing. So you feel like a G-force or something like that. But again, you don't normally fly and do all that kind of crazy shit anyways, but when you're just having fun and you're just flying around, yes, motion simulation is, it's like old school afterburner. It's not truly realistic because it has a limited amount of motion that it does, but when you're having some fun and just doing whatever you're doing, yeah, I would say this is fun for leisure stuff. Now, if I was to go into like a multiplayer session and I get hit by a SAM and I don't even know I'm looking for it, I'll blow up, and if I'm at 30,000 feet, I'll continue to blow up and the whole rig will be basically dancing for like 30 to 45 seconds until I actually hit the ground or hit the water. And it is annoying. Now they do have an automatic shutdown button to shut the motors off, but then you got to kind of restart the app and do all that kind of stuff. So I don't recommend this for multiplayer or if you're in danger. If you're just flying around and you want to have some leisure stuff, I mean, it's a lot of fun. Is it worth the price now? Like, for example, after shipping and all the duty taxes and everything like that, because this rig weighs several hundred pounds when it's shipped, and it's actually shipped from Ukraine, which is, well, not the greatest place right now. So the idea is, if you showed me $8,000 of cash and the motion rig, after 3 years of owning it would be hard for me to say, take my $8,000 to give me a little bit of motion. Now this is the first generation without the new actuators that they have on it, and it's not that it's. They say it's like an inch more motion, but you can see how far off I'm over on there. Way too fast. yeah, I mean, it kind of can screw with you. And that's a lot of motion to be trying to get this carried. I didn't even come in with the right direction. But, let's see if I can land it. Or crash it. One of the two. Hey, I caught the hook. Anyways. So after all that, I'll quit. Here comes jumping again. This is where I go flying. Look, no hands. Woo! And throw me all over the place. See? Told you. It's just annoying. And there's no way to get rid of that. It's just stupid. So, you know, when you get used to doing stuff like this, again, that's, you know, you can adjust the aircraft. Let me go over to SRS, which is funny because this is not the SRS you're thinking of. It's the Sim Racing Studio, so that can be confusing. But it even tells you right here the profile for the F-18 Hornet. So you can change, and it will save the profile for each aircraft. So if I want to tune it differently for the F-16, or if I didn't want all that crazy amount of motion, I could turn that way down. It's not something that can't be adjusted. So I'm not saying anybody's going to look at these settings and be like, bro, you got your boost at 88, you got your max angle, you got your this, that, and your reaction speed and smoothing. But yes, I know. But I want to feel it. Because this thing doesn't really, you don't have a lot of motion in this thing. So to get it to really work, you got to really push it. And you can see my settings for yaw, sway, acceleration, all these type of things are kind of like left and rights. Those are the things I want maxed out on helicopters, but not fixed wing. Now, I will tell you, the $8,000 question, is it worth it to have a motion platform? In DCS, I would say that's a 50-50. That's a tough one. It is fun. However, there isn't nothing more got me giddy as a kid on Christmas Day than hooking up Dirt Rally 2 and just going into a parking lot, put max angle on, and just start shifting and power braking and drifting and just swaying like this. I mean, it's like having your own personal go-kart track in your backyard and just coming home from work and just burning rubber in circles and spinning. I mean, you would laugh like an idiot until you were passing out. That was the most fun I've ever had with this rig. But as you look at it, I ain't tearing this stuff down. No friggin' way. I've got so much crap on this thing. And that's one of the reasons I didn't do the upgrade to the actuators for the new system. First off, they were $2,000 to do that. Second off, I'd have to take everything off of this, all the way down to taking the seats off. Everything would have to come off, rebuild it, just to get a little bit more play and a little bit more smoothness. I'm not down for that, not for the money. So after 3 years of having this rig, the motion platform is kind of, I almost say it's a gimmick for, like, if guests come over and they experience it. Yes, when they're taking off an aircraft carrier and they fly back in the seat and they do a barrel roll and they move around, that's huge for them. You know, it's an experience type of deal. I think it's a totally appropriate way to experience something like this. But if you're really trying to be in a mission, doing some really active, like, let's call it dogfights, or, you know, flying in and taking out some SAM sites and some JDAMs or whatever, the most motion, or even flying on that aircraft carrier, the you saw it was a terrible angle coming in, but the point is that it's an over sensory. It kind of screws with you a little bit much. Now, that being said, if you're in a real F-18 landing on an aircraft carrier, you're going to be over censored anyways. But the end of the day, it's a sim rig. It's not the real thing, and it's not a desk setup. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But it can be to the point where it is a super annoying thing to deal with. The telemetry can screw you up. It can literally throw you across the room. And I swear, it threw my neck out one time because I was looking at a bad angle and it popped, and my neck was screwed up for 2 weeks. So if you have back, neck issues and these type of things, this will chuck a baby across the room. So be aware, it does have some power to it. In racing, for drifting, it is so much fun. It is absolutely just, that's what pisses me off about this, is now look at the setup. I can't easily put a steering wheel on here and a gear shift on here. I just can't do that anymore. And so it's really now a DCS and flight sim rig. That's it. I can't race in this. So if I ever had to choose to get another racing setup just for fun, I'm never going to get a DOF. No way. And if I did, I'd only get 3 because I don't need the up and down and all that kind of stuff. I would want the sway, you know, for that kind of thing. But that'd be about it. So as far as having this kind of a rig, it's up to you guys if you want to spend the coin to do it. Helicopters do have a huge advantage with all of taking advantages of ups and downs because you do that in a helicopter. Don't do that in a fixed wing. The sway from landing, from your rudder effect, that actually takes advantage of a lot more motion. So fixed wing, I would not recommend it that much, especially if you're in battle. It's really inconvenient. But as I fly around with my buddy Coder all the time and helicopters and take these leisure flights, it's pretty much no danger. We're just landing on pads and leapfrogging and doing stuff. So it's a lot of fun. That's when I always have it on. But for the most part, if I'm doing fixed wing, multiplayer, that kind of stuff, and doing missions, I turn the motion off. It's just, I'd rather not be annoyed by the motion rig jumping all over the place for that reason. But for leisure stuff, yeah, it's fun. It does not really draw that much power. To answer the question a lot of people keep asking about this particular setup in here, it is not hot. Like I said, the fans are blowing so much air out of this thing that it really is just not that warm. Basement's very dark. Only has one set of windows in the back, and it really stays about 70 degrees in here year round. But yeah, that's it. So that's my opinion of what the motion platforms look like and how they function. Yeah, I hope that answered any kind of questions. If you want to put down some serious coin for this, of course, money's no object, and you really want to have one of these, keep in mind it's several hundred pounds. It takes up a lot of space. You basically have to figure out every damn thing on how to mount it yourself. There's no real instructions on how to actually put it together. It's kind of, you know, how to mount the seat to the rig. You got to kind of figure that out, get the right bracket. It's a lot of trial and error and sending parts back to Amazon and eBay and wherever you buy these things, and then you just got to figure stuff out. But I'll put a couple of links in the description at the end right here, just to kind of show you guys where and how I kind of modded this rig. So I got this set up, what parts I used, and we'll see you next time. Yo.